Welcome to the Magdalene Voices, giving voice to those silenced for centuries through sacred conversations with beautiful, illuminating souls. I am your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Maria Estela. I serve spiritual entrepreneurs, Magdalene's rising, and radiant beings just like you with the expansion and growth of yourself and your business, aligning you with your deep inner truth, bringing to life that which you're here to birth, and supporting you in expressing your soul's divine purpose through your being and your doing in this lifetime. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to join my newsletter to stay connected and updated. You can do so on my website, mariaestela.com, where you can also find previous episodes and their show notes. And if you have ever wondered about your Magdalene connection and calling, and whether you are a Magdalene, I invite you to download the free Magdalene Blueprint I've created for you. Go to mariaestela.com/AYM to get it. There's now less than 2 weeks to sign up for Mastery Through Love. Mastery Through Love is a 6-week healing journey for soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneurs. It's designed to help you stand out, speak your truth, and share yourself, your services, and your products with confidence, care, and deep satisfaction by supporting you in the unveiling and healing of the limiting beliefs, the negative self-talk and low self-worth, the scarcity mindset, and self-sabotage that's been holding you back from being and doing what you love. Through 6 powerful weeks, I will be your guide, your catalyst, your coach, your mentor, and facilitator as I support you in dissolving your fears by expanding the love. The journey is not for those faint of heart. With every module, you'll be diving deep, allowing yourself to experience the liberation, the revelation, and satisfaction that follows when you let love be the driver of your life and your business. If you're ready to feel liberated, satisfied, content, and fulfilled in your business, come play with us. Go to mariaestela.com/journey for all of the details, and know that our journey begins on March 1st. Okay, Radiant One. In today's episode, I am blessed to be joined by the divine Tonya Gonzalez for a deep diving sacred conversation about what being Bruja means, how it's connected to the reclamation of power as a person of color, the divine feminine, and A Course in Miracles, and many other things. Tonya is truly a powerful and gifted author, healer, and teacher. She left her job as a librarian in 2003 to share healing as a yoga instructor. Since becoming a licensed spiritual counselor in 2007, she's turned her love of tarot cards and feminine spirituality into an international spiritual entrepreneurship. From her humble beginnings reading tarot cards in a suburban Chicago cafe to international fame as she was voted number 3 psychic in the world. Tonya continues to serve as an author, healer, speaker, and teacher from her home in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, where she continues to share her intuitive gifts and spiritual insights. Our sacred conversation took many different turns as we allowed ourselves to be led by the goddess, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. As always, I encourage you to listen with an open heart and an open mind, and only take what serves you and leave the rest. Here is today's episode. Tonya, welcome to the Magdalene Voices. I had to go grab a tissue before we even started recording, so I am expecting this, not even expecting is probably the wrong word, but sensing that this is going to be a beautiful, deep episode. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. I am just going to dump, because we have a starting point, but after that we have so many directions that we're being pulled in. So we'll see where we're being led. But the reason why I called you in is because you show up so beautifully on Instagram with your magic. You have 2 accounts, and on both accounts I'm like double liking them every time. I'm trying to like every post, and just you share such wisdom and such depth and and you're centered around what's called Bruja. And so that is basically going to be the starting point or the gateway for our conversation. Would you like to start us off by telling us what is a Bruja or what is Bruja? Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. That's a great way for us to start, actually, beloved. And so a bruja is really a woman of color witch. You know, the word witch it has gone through so many different transformations. And actually, there's over 50 words for the word bruja, and only a few from Europe for witch. And so bruja really comes from the shamanic, the priestess, the energy of the indigenous. And so it has always been women of color and men of color who have been known as the brujas and the brujos. So it's really just about where you come from in the world. And because I live here in Mexico and I, identify as an Afro-Latina, I really wanted to embrace that ancestral Afro, African and Latina side and blend it and make it acceptable for other women as well, because the word witch might not ring the bell of every woman.
No, not at all. And that's what's so beautiful. Well, I don't know if it's beautiful because, and also it shouldn't, because of, as you say, the indigenous ancestral lines. This is something that's been, in your line for millennia. So it shouldn't be. So what defines, like, how is it a religion, or is it a practice, or what does being a bruja entail, I guess, on a daily basis or a moment to moment basis, or is it following a strict set of rules, and is there dogma and doctrine, or what does it entail being a bruja?
Really, it is just being connected to your own magic. It's being centered in your truth. It is, using all the tools of the universe. I am also a licensed spiritual practitioner in science of mind. I have been a lifelong member of the Rosicrucians. And so it's really just about being a light worker. And so Bruja is really, it doesn't interfere with actually, I don't have a spiritual practice for that other than really just lighting candles and speaking prayers, connecting to my ancestors and the Orishas. But I also connect to the goddess Mayat from Africa. I also speak to my passed on loved ones every day. I also speak to the ancient Egyptian, Heru and Herahut, every day. So it's really just blending all of that I know together. It's really blending all of it together and making it into my own kind of magic instead of following somebody else's rules. Because for many years, I only knew of one path, and that was witch. And I've been called a witch and the devil and so many different things. And again, it's really not about the label. It's really about the energy. And so a light worker, bruja, witch, it's all the same to me.
Yeah. Do you think, and I don't know if this is the right question, but do you think that, because it sounds to me there's also a reclamation of, in a sense, what was lost, or because of, for indigenous cultures, people of whiteness,
I understand.
white people, white supremacy, is there also is there also a reclamation of what was lost, but not lost, but suppressed, because indigenous people of color, people of different faiths have been suppressed and oppressed for centuries and millennia by white people. So is there also a sense of reclamation in that, that truth, that truth, these are, you can hold us down, but you cannot take our power away? Is there reclamation?
Absolutely. And you can see it happening out in the world, actually. More and more women of color are really starting to rise. And that
Yes.
energy is because we have been suppressed for so long. The reason I don't live in the United States is because of that very fact. When I first left the United States for an extended time, I was living in Spain,
Yeah.
and I had no idea the amount of oppression I felt and the sense of freedom that I felt living in another country of brown people. I mean, Spain is a lot of different shades of brown, but it's still a brown country.
Yeah.
And then I went to other places like Ukraine. I was there for over 9 months shooting a TV show.
Yeah.
And there I was considered exotic and beautiful, but not different, just, complete. There, it wasn't a racism experience or a colorism experience. It was like, you're the most amazing person I've ever seen. And it was a different feeling. And then, but in the United States, it was always, I have to be on guard, make sure I say the right word. And I really felt like this boxed in. And then when I came to Mexico, and it was just the land of brown people, I finally felt my shoulders drop. I felt my eyes soften. I felt myself soften. And I remember when the last election for the president, I cried. I cried and I said, this is going to change the world. And I said, I guess this is what the world needs. So let me get out my magic cape and start healing people, because but this is a part of being a light worker. We have to go through the darkness, and we have to see it, and we have to bring it to the light to heal it. And so that's what many people are doing now, reclaiming their spirit, reclaiming their self-worth, self-love, I mean, women in general are rising at the fastest rate ever. Again, we're reclaiming our witch, all of us are reclaiming our inner womanly arts and womanly wisdom, because we know our sisters had it right. The world was at peace. There was abundance. There was overflow. And the patriarchy just, I don't have the words for it. And now we recognize that we must come back. We are the ones who will heal Mother Earth. She is our mother, most of all. We know her language.
Yes.
And so it is up to every single woman to heal herself, because when a woman heals herself, she heals 7 years back and 7 years forward. And so when a woman can heal herself, she heals her daughter, she just heals it. And it doesn't have to be about the mom and then the daughter. She just heals it. And that's why I really love A Course in Miracles, because it reminds you that none of that past is gone. Who are you going to heal today? Start with you, and then heal the rest. Heal your sisters.
There are so many things. you just, that was just a sermon, and I loved it, and it was just like so beautiful. Thank you. That is going to heal a shit ton of people, and so many people need to hear that. I had the same notion when I saw the election. I also understood my privilege. I had white, and I think I've shared this before, I had white people say, oh, this is so good, it's going to be good. I'm like, I understand that, but I'm not the one, or we're not the ones who have to bear the pain of what is going to be happening, because we're white. I'm born in I'm about as privileged as they come. I have free access to healthcare, free access to education. I look like this. I'm not being bothered, so I'm not the one who has to, quote unquote, carry the pain, unless I have a choice, which other people don't. So it's about understanding our privilege first of all. Second of all, something about the divine feminine. I want to hear more about A Course in Miracles, because when you said that, I was like, oh, hold on. You talked about Bruja and being witch and blah, blah, blah. And I understand that, A Course in Miracles is just ingrained in that. But how on earth, how can you be, a woman of color, deep in Bruja, and then A Course in Miracles? Because that's supposed to be for the white Christians, or for those, like the white people, right? Well, I'm just saying.
No, you're speaking the truth, and
it's what I've heard, and it's not my experience. It's not what I see with A Course in Miracles, so tell me more about that. How A Course in Miracles? How? What?
It's so interesting, because when I first saw when the classes, yes, it is mostly middle-aged, privileged white people in A Course in Miracles. So that turned me off. it turned me off completely. And then the terminology, and then I realized that it was my ego keeping it from me. And I said, you know what, you're going to see it however you need to see it, but is it healing your mind? And I said, yeah, it is. Then stop looking at it as a separation, because you're seeing separation instead of, and again, maybe they're seeing it and you're not, because of the layer of separation of racism that resides within myself. And I said, okay. And I said, so, okay, because I had been keeping the two separate, just like my two separate Instagram accounts, you know? And I said to myself, but I cannot. I have to be true to myself. And so for me, A Course in Miracles is intuitive intelligence. And because it just hones you in, but you have to be prepared. And that's the thing. People want to continue. Oh, I don't understand. It's not about understanding. That's the thing. We want to be in logic instead of in love. I want to be in love. I'm a librarian. I don't need any more education. I have 2 master's degrees. If I wanted my PhD, I would have done it by now. I want to know love. I don't need to be smarter. I need to know love. That's what I need to know. And so I make that the most important thing. You know, and when we can start to be at that place within ourselves, then A Course in Miracles is easy, because you recognize it is just about learning to love yourself and unlearning what you think you know, because we think we know so much. Again, we think we're so logical and we're so bright, you know, but we really want to be bright from here, because everything we want, really, love and compassion and peace and happiness, that doesn't come from here. That comes from here. And that's what A Course in Miracles teaches us, is that, you know, like today's lesson, it is just every lesson is so perfect, but it just reminds us that we are not alone, you know? So yesterday's, you know, was Goddess is my strength. Her vision is my gift. Now, you talked about the divine feminine. So I change all of the words. I change it to reflect a feminine energy, because that's what works for me. Because I can't continue to pray to this male energy and talk about my divine feminine. So to me, she looks like the beloved goddess Maya of Africa. And that's who I'm talking to. Because it doesn't matter, again, and because that is truly my higher self, being self. You know, and if she's who I want to connect to, if you want to connect to Goddess Bridget or Aphrodite through A Course in Miracles, so be it. As long as you are following the principles of forgiveness and healing, that's what it's there for. And that's the key. That's the key for me.
I never heard anyone else who did that. I did that too. I changed when I was reading it, I would change it into her as well, and to she, and to Goddess. I would change it. Because like you said, it didn't feel right to pray to some, first of all, to some source outside of myself that's supposed to be judgmental and whatever. And also, in the beginning, I couldn't understand a word of it. Like I would fall asleep, and I would, and then all of a sudden, as you continue your practice, it's like this world opens up, and you begin to read these deep, deep truths. So in terms of the divine feminine, one of the things, because when you mentioned, you know, patriarchy, and you didn't mention white supremacy or oppression, but, you know, to me, it's very connected. Those two are very connected. But to me, the denial of the divine feminine is what has brought, or is what is bringing the patriarchy down, or dismantling it, because the patriarchy and then religions have far too long denied the divine feminine. And she will not stay subservient. She will rise. She is inherent in each and every one of us, whether we be men or women, or also of, I guess, non-genders. But there is that force within us that, you know, that gnosis, that wisdom. How do you see that being connected or do you see her, that, that divine feminine being connected to the oppression of her? Is that
Oh
even?
yeah, because well, her oppression was a part of the programming of the oppression, of by the patriarchy because of her power.
Yeah.
Because of her power to bleed and not die,
Yes.
she must have magic that we don't know. So we've got to control her. We've got to keep her as property, yet and still she could be raped. And then if she was raped, she was no good. They made our value.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing us, because that's what, again, they conditioned us to believe, that we had no value. But in the Egyptian times, the women were held as the sacred vessels. There's a mystery about the Holy Grail really being the woman's yoni.
Absolutely.
That's the Holy Grail, because that's where creation begins. And that's where, where Yeshua and Magdalene were connected. And so it was through the union, and that's even what A Course in Miracles is about, is union with your holy higher spirit self, and union with your holy relationship, whomever, your mate or people around you. But this Holy Grail, we have to recognize, is really within us, but we have been denied it so far and so deep. We have forgotten it. We have destroyed ourselves because, again, they fed us things and given us breast cancer. They told us to, we had to be strong, independent, make the money, bring it home, and be sex pots, and be moms, and could, and bird babies, and do all these things. They made all these things for us to do, and then said we can't have abortions, we can't control our own bodies. I mean, it was just all this different ways of suppressing our light.
Yes.
And then told us, to be more like a man. So many women now are so hardened.
Yes.
And so angry within their wombs and within their hearts. They don't even know themselves. No. It's taken me a journey of really reconnecting to my body. I didn't realize how disassociated I was through alcoholism and through, partying, what I thought was living a good life. And it was really just a pretending fake life.
Yes.
And so when we get real with ourselves, that's, again, what A Course in Miracles, because it brings the truth out. When you say, I've had those dark thoughts, it wakes you up, but it wakes you up gently. It doesn't assault you like your ego does. It says, beloved, haven't you had these thoughts?
Yeah.
Haven't you made mistakes?
Yeah.
Haven't you asked for forgiveness? And can't you do that for your brother? Can't you do that for your sister?
Yeah.
Can't you do that for yourself? Must you continue to torture and torment yourself?
Yeah.
Lay it on the altar. I mean, even the words, the altar, Brujas have altars, so I lay it on the Bruja altar. I lay it on the altar, the holy, the holy altar. It's still an altar.
Yeah.
And they keep candles burning all day in churches. I've got a candle burning. So there's, again, the feminine energy is a part of the church, but they, again, made us see it differently.
Yeah.
And that's why A Course in Miracles is all about shifting that perception.
Yeah.
And allowing us to embrace our feminine power instead of denying it like we have been, because we've been afraid of it. We've been afraid of it.
Yeah.
We've used tampons. We started doing other things to stop our periods.
Yes.
Women were taking injections and doing all of these things. So they disconnected from the moon, from their mother nature, just completely disconnected.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to come back home. We're trying to heal. Yeah. And A Course in Miracles is one of the ways that I found that has just said, here, beloved, I love you. Yeah. Let me show you the ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to take a moment because that, like everything that you say sounds like such a loving prayer. Yeah. It's so beautiful. And I keep hearing, and they ain't seen nothing yet. They just they ain't seen nothing yet.
No.
I don't know who is supposed to hear this episode, but I know that there are women out there who's supposed to hear this episode who will recognize themselves in you and in me as well, but more hopefully in you because you're the guest and the light here. and will find their way home to that place within themselves that they have never left.
That's right. That's right. I that is my mission, is to
Yeah.
remind sisters.
Yes.
My upcoming book, Heal Sister Heal, is
Yeah.
about this, because
Yeah.
I had thought it was going to be this thing. And then I was like, you know what I really want to write is a book that looks like A Course in Miracles, but is for women, and that is going to just turn it inside out. So Heal Sister Heal is really, it's 3 parts, just like A Course in Miracles. So the first part is my personal story, as well as stories of women that I've shared. And then it also is in some of the texts written in the goddess and she form. I want to use some of the text to really support my story and how I was able to shift and transform. And then that leads into the workbook, the daily practice, which is the self-love plan. Because again, many of us, we think we know how to love ourselves. We get our hair done, we buy ourselves nice things, but self-love is not about that. Self-love is being free of judgment, being free of grievances, being free of guilt and shame and blame.
Yes.
And we have to start within our yonis.
Yes.
We have to look at our feelings and not our emotions, because we're so caught up in our emotions, and that's all in our mind and our ego. And really tune into the deepest desires of our hearts instead of thinking about it.
Yes.
And then it goes into part 3, which is one of my favorite parts, is that a little bit of magic, and that is the sensuous Bruja. And this is do-it-yourself practices and rituals and candles. So it's 3 parts. And again, because it's personal transformation that leads to self-healing, and then self-healing allows you to experience your magic.
Yes.
And so that's what Heal Sister Heal is about. And I want us all to, again, heal 7 years back and 7 years ahead. That way we know we're setting ourselves up for a better world than we left it. We're setting up our daughters, and that way we know when we are ancestors or angels that we have provided a better world for the future generations.
And I love how you say it's connect, because I can hear that connection. You say that because that's one of the things that's so important to me, is that yes, I see when we begin our awakening journey or our healing journeys, we start by healing ourselves, but ultimately our healing is not only for ourselves, it's also for the collective, because we stand upon those, the shoulders of those that came before us, and we will become the fertile ground for those who are coming after us. And so I love how you tie that in, so beautifully with the collective, how yes, heal yourself, and then you then become the fertile ground or soil for healing of the planet, of the collective as well. You mentioned the Holy Grail, and that is truly also my, that is, to my knowledge, what she was, the Holy Grail. Mary Magdalene was the Holy Grail. She was the carrier, not because today there's a lot of people who talk about a specific lineage or a special lineage and blah, blah, blah. And that's, we know, us knowing Course in Miracles, we know that we're not that special, so it's not about being special, but it is about the Holy Grail. You mentioned how did you have an experience with Mary Magdalene, or do you want to share that? Because I also want to ask you about how you got to, because I know that of course Miracles is connected to how you got to Mexico, so I also want to have you share that. So do you want to start with your Mary Magdalene?
Absolutely. So they just, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, canonized Mary Magdalene finally in the Catholic Church, and saying that she was indeed a saint. Well, her feast day is July 22nd, and that happens to be my birthday. And I love Mary Magdalene and the story of Yeshua. And when I found that out, I knew again that I was connecting to the divine feminine. I knew how could it have been? And so I celebrate Mary Magdalene and all the Marys and the Marias, here in Mexico on that feast day, because I know it is, again, reminding me that I am connected to that lineage of women. We all are.
Yes.
We all are. We all come from a high priestess, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and so how that leads to me getting here in Mexico
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
is I had just stopped drinking. I was, you know, freshly coming back from living in Europe again, and I just was saying, okay, Spirit, I'm just going to really let you guide me here, because again, I knew living in the United States was not for me anymore.
No.
And so I just said, what's next? I tried Florida, I tried California, I tried every place. I went to Spain, to
Yeah.
Madrid, to Marbella. I mean, I was, where is my place? Because I kept saying,
Yeah.
I know I'm meant to be somewhere and doing something. I know Chicago is not it.
Yeah.
And so it was actually teacher David Hoffmeister
Yeah.
and his organization down in Ajijic, and they had invited me down. And I fell in love with the place. And I said, I know I am where I'm meant to be. And so I've never left. And I, you know, again, there's some Course in Miracles, again, like you said, that is this very strict, you know, kind of dogma, very straight.
Yeah.
It's for you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost like a sect of, you know,
Yeah.
of A Course in Miracles, you know, and I just said, you know what? I'm getting this. I know there's more women of color and people of color and women who have questions. And I said, I'm getting this. I'm getting this download, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it anyway. I don't know how or whatever, but I know I'm meant to share it. And I might be the only one. I've been teaching off and on for years. And I've never been able to really grow a following because no one can really connect to it. And it's because it is so dense that the logical mind says it doesn't make sense.
No.
But you have to be at a place where you are so willing to listen beyond your ears, where it makes sense. And, you know, it's the most beautiful thing, because I started reading it really just with my family, not in I'm teaching you A Course in Miracles today. I would just share some of the lessons. So then my daughter became intrigued with it, and she was like, you know what, I'm going to read it next year. So she's been starting to read it, and it's changing her life. I mean, it's literally changing her life. So she started in January. And since she was a little girl, she's wanted to be a singer and an actress, an entertainer.
Yeah.
No, she went the smart girl route. You know, she went to school, she graduated magna cum laude from her university. And I said, wait, where's that girl? You know, where's the woman who wanted to be an actress? And so through, again, her taking a few classes with me and listening to some of the things, she's now she's in a play, she's auditioning for another one. She's had some singing things. She's got a voice coach and acting coach, and she's fallen in love. She, you know, just with herself, she's like, I don't know what it is. She's like, but it has changed my life. And she's so, just thinking about it, just knowing that I've shared, it's such something with my daughter. That's what it's about. And she doesn't have to get it in the depth that I do, but she gets it now. And that's all that matters. And she's doing her, you know, she's doing it, she's listening, and it's healing her mind. And again, she's going to then heal for her. And for her lineage and on the other side of her father's family, you know? And so, and it's blessing my husband as well. And just, we have to remember, when we allow ourselves to be in love, love is in love with us too. It's the hardest thing for us to get. It does not have to be hard. We just have to let it in. That's the thing.
And that's such a beautiful, I brought my that's such a beautiful example, like, of exactly what you said before, in terms of when you heal, you know, 7 years in the future and 7 years in the past, and you've given this gift to your daughter of not the good. Well, what is the good? Again, to me that's a patriarchal term, like go to school, you know, and for me, it's been, when was it, 2011. I used to be a key account manager. I used to wear high heels and penciled skirts and you know, blonde hair, acrylic nails, full makeup. Like, I was everything I thought I was supposed to be. I had everything I thought I was supposed to have. And then then no. And for the past, I would say that's probably 8 years, it's just been an unveiling. It's been removing everything that I ever clung myself to that I thought was supposed to bring me happiness or joy or what I was supposed to be. I've just been peeling back those layers. And that's, sharing that story with your daughter is such a beautiful thing, because it's, to me at least, it's about joy and it's about satisfaction, and what brings us joy and what brings us satisfaction more so than external appearances, which is, 10 years ago, I do not have a drop of makeup on. I would never have been able to do anything without makeup. Not that I don't like makeup. It's not, for me, it's a journey to unmask and unveil myself fully. And eventually I will start wearing makeup again, and I will start wearing perhaps high heels again and so forth. It's not, but it's just, I had to get rid of everything in order to build myself up and find out who I was and what I stood for. And of course, Miracles was such a, and like you said, that's what I think I shared this before we came on. To me, of course, Miracles seems to have become a religion to many people. And to me, of course, Miracles is not a religion. It is, it's a spiritual practice. It is a course. It says so. It's a course in miracles. So it's really about that. And I love that you're tearing down the idea is that it's supposed to be for white people and, middle-aged white people, and it's supposed to be in a certain strict way. And that also shows why the reclamation that you talked about, the Bruja, the divine feminine, the connection to your ancestors and your guides are so important, because when we're cut off from that source, and I think that if you're someone who's cut off, who don't have access to that, and then you come into a Course in Miracles, then that becomes your religion rather than the connection. And to me, that is what Yeshua and Mary Magdalene came to do. They came to say, listen, the way that you're going is the patriarchy, because that's why he turned over windows outside of the temple. He was trying to tell people, listen, what are you doing? God is not out there. It's not, it's within. Yeah, at least that I get because it's, to me, that's such an important message that it's within, and that's one of the things that I find in A Course in Miracles. And I also see in any, even the witches, that was like that's why they were killed. And that's why, in the US, I would see that's why, the religion or the traditions of slaves that were brought in was forced down, because if you know that God is within you, then it's, you have your power. So if you want to control any people, then remove God. I didn't think that was going to come out of my mouth, but that's
and that's exactly what happened. They told you cannot bring your things here. We better not catch you doing that. No. We better not see you. And so even the Orishas, they're all connected to some kind of Catholic saint, because they had to keep it all undercover and hide their spiritual practices and able to get along, to do what they do. The natural medicine and the natural magic, that all comes from Africa and Egypt. And I mean, even the things that we use today, every pill comes from the Amazon.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that, you know what I'm saying? Like every medicine is in nature. So if that's the truth, then you know what I'm saying? And so it's really been just to control. It's really just been about power and control and suppression and oppression.
And how, so, because I know I have people of color, friends who are people of color in the US, and I think being with them has been eye-opening. And I'm sorry if because it's just, I've been with them and I've seen the precautions they need to take. Even I have friends who are, old men, and the precautions they have to take just for being Black, it's just it's unreal it's horrific. And I want to say now we're talking about the US. However, I don't think that there's any there's because one of the things that I've spoken about many times on this show, and I continue to do that when we touch upon these subject, is because it's very easy to project and say, oh, that's the US and that's not how it is here. But I know for a fact that it goes on here in Denmark as well. First of all, Denmark was a slave nation. We did have slaves. We've done horrors to Greenland, which has an indigenous people as well. And so as always, when we talk about these things, I encourage those who are listening to find out about the practices of their own country, because I never know where people are listening in from, to begin see and then begin being a part of the solution. And also the solution also start by recognizing your own inherent racism, because even though I don't want to be a racist, but I am, because of the way I was brought up, where I was brought up. Not like I don't walk around the street marching, screaming Hitler. That's not what I mean, but it's simply just so ingrained in our system. It's in
the fabric of our tapestry as people.
Yes.
And that's why it takes all of us to unravel it.
Yeah.
Because it's woven in, and how are we have to be the ones to unweave it.
Yes. Yes. How can, because you say you had to leave the US in order to realize just how oppressed you were. For someone who is not ready to leave the US or who wants to look at this, what can they do? I'm
No, great question. Yeah. Again, turn within. Yeah. Turn within, light that fire within. I just watched a documentary about a man who spent 40 years in solitary confinement. And in the documentary, he just talked about, he's like, I knew I was not there. I was not there. I was not in that room. And I just had to tell myself, I am not here. For 40 years in solitary confinement. And he said, I would not allow myself to forget who I was. And that's the thing. I tell people, look at cats. Look at cats. Don't cats act like royalty? Most people are afraid of cats because they say they've got some kind of energy or magic, right? Oh, cats have some kind of magic or whatever. And they're, you know why? Because cats haven't forgotten that they are royalty. Every cat you see, they act so regal and, fancy because they haven't forgotten their truth. We have. Yeah. And we tell them, oh, you act so fancy. Our cats, our animals teach us so much. And so again, if we can laugh at ourselves, and that is the reason that Course in Miracles was created, because somebody said it has to be better than this. Where's the laughter? Where's the joy? Yeah. A cat.
And I want to say, what is so interesting, because that took me years to get there. What is so interesting about that is many, many people who actually study A Course in Miracles never get to that place. They never get to the joy, to the laughter, to the satisfaction, to the liberation, to the freedom, to the love, because they get one, like they follow that. So I just love how you keep saying that, because there's someone who needs to hear it. We could seriously go on
for hours.
Is there something that hasn't been said? I will share in the show notes and on my site, I will share links to everything you've got and who you are, and so people can find you. But is there anything that you feel that hasn't been said, or something we haven't covered? Yes. Or go ahead.
I just want to share one of the most important reasons why healing the sacred yoni, the Holy Grail, because we hold so much trapped energy in there as women, from childhood sexual abuse to rape, incest, all kinds of things. Yeah. And if we don't heal that, it does create cancers, diseases, abnormal teeth, cysts.
Yes.
and menopausal symptoms.
Yes.
When you are in divine health and in radiant light within your body temple, mind, body, and spirit, then you won't have any symptoms. Again, because this body temple is at direct reflection of what's going on inside.
Yes.
It is a direct reflection. And
Yes.
so if there's any trapped anything,
Yeah.
it's going to show up in your body.
Yes.
So that's why it's so important to heal.
It doesn't even have to be abuse. Like, it doesn't have to be abuse, because, as women, just from the way that we've been conditioned, I know that I've never, I haven't been raped or abused, but I've allowed my boundaries to be stepped over time and time again.
Yeah.
So healing that place, just so people understand, it's not just if you've had a serious case of abuse, which is also important, but it's also just from your conditioning as a woman, from you first started, having your menstrual cycle, moving through like having sex, being with men or women, or, whatever, and just moving through that. There's still healing to be, and this is our place of, like you said, it's the place from which we manifest. It's the place from it's where we create. So if that place is out of whack, then it's clear.
It's the Holy Grail. Yeah. If it's the Holy Grail, and if it's not filled with love, then what is it filled with? And thank you for saying that also, because absolutely, I've had clients who've told me, I didn't want to have sex. I wanted to feel loved. Or another one said, I'm so ashamed. I've had sex with so many men.
Yes.
And again, those stories that we tell ourselves and that we perpetuate over and over, those repeated patterns and behavior, are really just cries for love. And again, you beat yourself up here, and then it manifests in your body.
Yes.
But when you love yourself, again, you're in radiant health. And this is one of my favorite lines. American Horror Story was popular a couple of years ago. They had an episode with the Coven, and the Supreme, Fiona, I remember she kept saying one of the qualities of a rising Supreme is she is in radiant and vibrant health. And so if we allow ourselves to know that when we are radiant and vibrant health, we are supremes, we are queens, we are goddesses in form.
Yes.
And that is what we're here to do. We are meant to be in that radiant health. But when we're stuck in our symptoms and stuck in our, thing, we can't. But if you're a student, then you can become a supreme. Because if you watch the episode, she kept learning her magic and making mistakes and, focusing again. But again, be a student so you can be a supreme. Don't be a slave. You can't be a slave and be a supreme. You have to be a student and be a supreme. And that's why I love A Course in Miracles again, because it reminds me that I am always a happy learner.
And
I have to just keep learning.
Yes. And slave doesn't just apply to people of color. That applies to every...
A mental slave. A mental slave.
Exactly.
Mental slavery. Mm-hmm.
I have tears of gratitude for you showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Thank you.
I'm so honored to, again, just support my sisters, support any woman who is really ready to heal her life. And again, that's why I'm writing Heal Sister Heal, because it's going to have all of this in there, because I know it's important and it's time. It's time. Do you know when it's coming out? Heal. No.
Okay.
But I'm writing it now. So
I'm just saying that I'll have a link to it so that, whenever you have a link to it, we'll have a link to it.
There will be a pre-launch very soon. And then I'm hoping to get it written and ready by Christmas or at least New Year's Eve of 2019. So sometime this year, but pre-launch is coming soon. So thank you so much for allowing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so honored. I really am. Thank you for holding the space for all of us sisters. So thank you. And for beloved Mary Magdalene. I mean, you're bringing her voice through. You're bringing her voice through and her message. So thank you. Thank you, sister. You're welcome. You're welcome.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of the Magdalene Voices. For all of the deeds and the details, find the show notes on my website, mariastella.com. Know that I would love to hear how it resonated with you and what you got from it. So tag me on Instagram or leave me a comment on either my website or YouTube. Finally, if it served you, please take a moment to share it with a friend or on social media. God bless.